Hello, everybody. This is Mike Young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and I am joined today by Joanne Kong, and I think you're in Richmond today, right? In Richmond, Virginia, we were talking about, who is the author of a brand new book, Vegan Voices. Welcome.
Hello, Mike. It's great to be on your program. And this is a book that has just been released. And the way the book started, I don't know if you ever wake up in the morning and some idea just kind of pops into your head, but
Yes.
that's exactly what happened. I woke up one morning and the words vegan voices were real loud in my head. And at that point, this was about a year ago, I had been doing about 5 to 7 years of traveling all around the world, talking about veganism, animal rights. And to me, the idea, I think, came to me because I felt this was a way to create a sense of community, but also to have an opportunity to share with readers just how individual each of our paths are. That veganism, it's
Yes.
not, it's not just a diet. I mean, many of us do it for health. Some
Yep.
of us, I'm an ethical vegan,
Yes.
but it's really part of a life journey. And I think it's that life journey of becoming more compassionate, more sustainable, just living the most kind life you can. And all these people that I assembled, they do it in their own unique ways. They had
I
their
see.
own challenges, different perspectives. So I think it will give readers a real window into just how varied the journey can be and how fulfilling it can be.
Oh, so I have a question. You said you traveled around the world, and that sounds awesome. And I'm kind of curious about how you did that and how that went, if you could comment. But also, did you meet some of these people on these travels?
Yes, I did. Yeah. In fact, well, I love to travel and I love giving talks. And as part of my day job as a music professor, I coach singers in different foreign languages. So,
Ah,
for instance, when I travel to events to speak in Europe, I actually gave my presentations in Spanish and Italian and German, which was really fun. So I just reached out to a lot of
wow.
veg fests, whether they're here in the US or in Europe and Asia. There's this tremendous organization you may not be aware of. It's called Veggie World.
Veggie World.
And yeah, Veggie World, and it's held in about 2 dozen different cities every year. And it's like a huge event where there's vendors, it's like a trade show, but also speakers,
Right.
fantastic food, and tens of thousands of people go to these events. So a
Mm.
lot of my connections to Europe were through that organization. I also know Melanie Joy and Sebastian Joy with Pro Veg
Yes.
International.
Yes.
They helped to organize the huge Veganes Sommerfest in Berlin. I don't know if you've ever been there. You have to go there.
I have not. No, but I love to travel too. My wife and I travel
Yeah.
almost constantly now because our kids are older. We never got to travel when we were younger. And so when we met each other back in 2017, that's what we started doing, is just traveling. And it's interesting as someone who's plant-based and vegan. And actually, you mentioned Berlin, Germany. Like we were over there a couple of years ago, and we went to Oktoberfest. There was very limited vegan options. At least when we were there. That was 2018, I think it was, that we were there. So I almost thought, seeing how few options there were, that there would maybe be a vegan version of Oktoberfest in Germany or something like that. It sounds like there is.
Yeah,
Right?
because Berlin is actually considered one of the vegan capitals of Europe, and Germany, more than almost any other European country, has put a lot of funding into developing uh, meat alternatives and
Yeah.
new types of plant-based products. So I
Yeah.
guess Oktoberfest has got to grow up, right, and become more
Yeah. And maybe they have, because 2018, that was a long time ago in the plant-based and vegan movement. I mean, I've seen so much growth, as I'm sure you have, and change and more acceptance and more just vegan and plant-based products around that didn't used to be here a few years ago.
right. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much positive news that I mean, you just look at the past 5 years here in this country. Hope Bohannik, I don't know if you know her. She's with United Poultry Concerns.
Okay, yeah.
Her essay is called 30 Years of Radical Compassion. And she talks about at the end of the book how she remembers way back in the 80s how people did not even know the word vegan. Even in the 90s, people had this negative connotation,
Yes,
or,
yes.
or very ignorant. But now more and more people are starting to understand what it's all about. And
Hmm.
so I included a lot of folks in the book who are kind of at the forefront, and they're doing they're filling so many different roles, whether they're
Right.
sanctuary owners, authors, speakers, medical professionals, grassroots organizers,
Nice.
just all kind of the whole gamut of all the different ways one can become vegan and advocate for a
How,
plant-based lifestyle.
approximately how many little stories do you have? Are they vignettes, you call them, or how would you describe?
They're in varying lengths. They each average, I would say, about 1,000 to 1,500 words, and I have 51 writers. I wrote the introduction and the afterwards, so that was a challenge, a logistical challenge to get
Yes.
all the essays together and edit them. Victoria Moran wrote the foreword, which
Yep.
was so gracious of her, and I organized the essays into different chapters. So the different chapters are our kindred animals around the globe,
Mhm.
activism, body and spirit, the arts, and a new future. So
Okay.
that way people can kind of peruse through the book. You don't need to read it. By the way, here it is.
There we go.
No one has seen it. You can kind of peruse and decide what category you'd like to read, but a lot of the authors do touch upon the same basic core values of wanting to be more compassionate to our fellow animals and lead a life of better health and sustainability, and simply spreading that message around.
Awesome. And now for yourself, you obviously you're the at least the compiler. Like you said, you wrote the beginning and the end to this book as well. But is this all what you do, or you? I think you mentioned before we were talking that you're actually a musician. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. Professionally, my job is I'm a university professor at the University of Richmond. I also work with student groups and sustainability groups on campus. So my whole vegan advocacy thing really has only developed in, I'd say, the past 5 to 7 years. So it's kind of
Mm.
like this other thing I do. And people oftentimes will say, well, what does music have to do with veganism? And I point out that I'm a classical concert pianist, by the way.
Yes.
I point out that as a performer, my goal is to awaken people's inner spirit, right? Music is a
Yes.
chance to reflect,
Yes.
a chance to be quiet, right? And listen and have access to different parts of your heart and brain that maybe normally you don't. And when we're speaking to others about the animals and going plant-based, we're really doing the same thing. I think we're trying to encourage people in a positive way to look within and ask themselves, how can I be the most kind, compassionate person? How can I extend the love I have for my pet to other animals who really are not any different?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I totally get it, and I'm supposing that you probably follow along the line of reasoning that you have to kind of get to your optimum self in terms of how you're treating others, especially animals. If you're going to be able to make the positive impact on the world and society, right? I mean, that kind of stands in the way of that a lot of times. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that, sometimes we vegans get this bum rap that we're self-righteous, that we're trying to lecture other people. I have found that one of the best ways to advocate for veganism is to be a picture of health. You
Mm.
know, like people will come up to me and say, "What do you do? You never get sick. How do you stay healthy? What do you do to have all that energy?"
Yeah.
And I tell them that I'm a vegan. They can't believe my age. I did a
How
tour.
young are you, if you don't mind me asking?
You want to take a guess? You're really young.
30? Yeah.
No, really, honestly,
Yeah. 40.
I'm 64.
64. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would not guess that. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, you are an example. That's for certain.
And I think
Good
that's
example.
that's a great way that we become advocates for this lifestyle, because it's not only just the physical health thing,
Mhm.
it's something deeper, I think, just kind of that sense of greater peace and clarity. I mean, did you feel that way too once you were fully vegan?
Yeah, well, it takes a while, right? Because you are what you eat. I think that's true. And then it takes a while to regenerate all those cells with the new foods that you're giving it. And of course, as you know, there's different levels of veganism, right? There's anything from total junk food veganism to
Sure.
organic or veganic whole minimally processed plants or raw, right? I mean, there's a huge range of where you could fall in there. So I the closer I get to organic, whole, raw, minimally processed, the better I feel. Like, I just feel better over time. I mean, I'm just saying, I never would have thought that at the beginning,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, for me, it's been 21 years. Well, actually, no, 21 years is when the process began. I only became vegan in 2014. That's when I started the nonprofit. But even that has been a process because everyone's affected by everyone else that surrounds them, even like yourself, right? I mean, if you were to surround yourself with 5 raw organic vegans and only talk to them, you'd probably be in a different spot right now, as would I, right? If I wasn't trying to convey the message myself to a bunch of people that some of them don't even want to hear it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think something that's really interesting is a lot of people do initially do it for health. At least that's kind of the feeling I get. Like if I'm speaking at, one of these large conferences like NAV's Summerfest, the sessions that are by far the most well attended are when Dr. Greger or Dr. Glapper, Dr. Mills, Dr. Barnard are speaking because everybody cares about health. But I've often found that people who initially do it for health reasons, once they're reaping the benefits, they start to have a deeper understanding that veganism goes so much deeper than that.
yes, yes,
That it's about that sense of connection to nature and other animals and doing better for the planet.
yeah.
Um,
For
yeah,
certainly, I mean, for me, yeah, I mean, the veganism part is there since 2014, but the health part is more of a fine tuning.
yeah,
But once you get into there, like what we do with our organizations, we just try to get people to consider just life without animal products, and then it's a learning process.
right.
And there's always more to learn. It seems like always.
Yeah. And one of the writers in the book is Shankar Narayan from India. And he was one of the first proponents of veganism in India. And in his essay, he talks about how people thought he was crazy. In fact, his wife left him, asked him to see a psychiatrist. He
Yeah.
really thought he'd gone off the deep end. But now you have plant-based products in India that they're behind the US, but
Yes.
and huge articles in major Indian newspapers about veganism. But anyway, he has a wonderful saying that veganism is not a destination, it's a journey. And I
Yes.
think that points to the fact that we're all learning. It's just a
Absolutely.
beautiful road that we're all on.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like someone said he was crazy. I mean, I used to, well, you and I were talking before this video. I mean, I started out, I think my just default thought pattern was veganism from as long as I can remember, because I refused to eat meat. Of course, I didn't understand the concept of dairy or anything at that time. I just realized that meat was gross because I realized what it was,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want to eat it. But of course, I got brainwashed as a teenager and into my 20s and finally got out of it. But it's important to know that that there's this help from people that is out there now, because I had no help at all, and
Right.
there's no it's fully understandable how my journey was with a complete lack of support and help. And anyone, and I wasn't vegan back then, but anyone telling me, like you said, using the word crazy to describe me trying to do something that everyone else wasn't doing,
Right.
that's it. It's just that people become uncomfortable, I think, when when
Yeah.
they're not into, like, oh, I see all, and marketing helps to reinforce that comfort zone level, right? And of course everyone's in that cycle, and then when you see someone standing outside of it, you're like, wait a minute, what what's happening with that? And it's wonderful that we're in a time now where people who don't want to have anything to do with animal products are people I say society is accepting of that now, right? Where there was a lot of friction in the past. I'm sure it's mentioned in your book by people that were talking about that. People are much more understanding, even if they don't agree. And eventually, I think you and I know they will agree eventually. It's only a matter of time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just really fascinating when you look at all the resources that are out there now with the internet and documentaries and books and meetup groups and mentoring programs and plant-based nutrition programs you can enroll for. There's just so much that's out there.
Yeah.
So,
And it's not hard to find too. That's what's awesome, because actually I know you're in Richmond. I can't remember which university this is at, but 821 Cafe, does that ring a bell?
Yes, absolutely.
My wife and I, years ago, because she became vegan after she met me in 2017, early 2017, and so it was hard to find places back in early 2017, where you can go and have a good meal. And of course, that's not an exclusively vegan restaurant, but they had some awesome vegan options, and it was a really cool place. Like even the bathrooms and stuff. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So, and it's right on, I think it's right on the university there, right? It seemed like it was right there.
Actually, it's right near Virginia Commonwealth University.
That's it.
Downtown. I teach at University of Richmond, which is kind of on the other side of town.
Do you have a restaurant like that where you are on campus, or no?
Actually, there's one place that recently had to close because the owner decided to retire. It was called Phoenix Garden, and it was Vietnamese, all vegan, and it was fantastic. So,
well, I'm sure it's only a matter of time until you have a place like that, either on campus or adjacent right to it. So that's what's exciting, because Denise and I talk about this, my wife Denise, we don't have to search things out anymore.
Right.
Not like even a few years ago, we were searching things out, and we don't have to do that anymore. And even we're talking about, like, a lot of times when we travel a lot too. We actually take short trips on the weekends. We don't have a problem finding organic produce that we can eat at different grocery stores and things. So that the organic area, like of ultimate health anyway, is starting to expand more and become, even in Walmart, right? Most Walmarts have an organic produce section.
Yeah. I did want to mention, I don't know when this program is going to air, but I have a small part in a brand new documentary, Eating Our Way to Extinction.
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah, the one that's narrated by Kate Winslet. And
Yes.
It's so beautifully done. There's no graphic, violent imagery. But what's great is that it centers a lot on the environment, and the camera crew visited places all around the world, visited indigenous peoples and wild areas. The film opens with this view of the Amazon rainforest, and then you hear slowly a huge mass of trees that's falling because of
over there.
vegetation. It also talks a lot about, of course, the things that we saw in Seaspiracy with the decimation of our oceans. So
that's not good. Not good at all. I mean, actually, I know one of the executive producers for that, Gwen Whitaker. She was just out in LA. She actually owns Green Fair Organic Cafe in Northern Virginia. I don't know if you've ever been there or not.
No, I haven't.
We'll have to talk after this video. But I'll tell everyone on the video, it is the healthiest restaurant in the world. But I say, just as much as it's not hard to find plant-based or vegan food anymore, what it is nearly impossible to find is the healthiest of food that I can say, like, as our nonprofit, we have a certified healthy vegan food designation. Like at hers, she's the only restaurant where I can say, the more of the food that you eat from that restaurant, the healthier you will get. And I can't say that about any restaurant, including the vegan and plant-based restaurants. Cannot.
I mean, a lot of them, they use a lot of what Dr. Clapper calls SOS, which is sugar, oil, and salt.
Yes.
I think for people transitioning,
the
junk food thing, okay, that's okay,
of course.
But you can't regularly eat like that. It's not healthy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy. Like I said, I'm happy, very happy that there are all these plant-based and vegan options. I don't have to worry when we travel anymore. I don't have to be concerned about it. But what I am concerned, right, is from our point of view as an organization that educates folks, and it sounds like you are as well, is to teach folks and to get them to understand why we need actual, real healthy food and organic food. But you obviously, if you're in the new movie, that's centered on the environment. The organic that's part of that too. So And it's there's a lot more work to be done, but we're making progress, and it's great because I think hopefully you can agree it's only a matter of time.
Yes.
So probably everyone adopts these thought patterns and lifestyles.
Right, right. Yeah, I think we're just, I just have this vision that all of us who are doing all this work, it's like we were brought here for this purpose to lift us all up, right? And to
Yes.
get this message out there and evolve humanity to be better than we are, as a race.
Yeah, well, thank you for all the work that you're doing. The fact that you've gathered all this, because it's almost like, well, I guess obviously you're a university professor, so this is almost like a historic view of the movement, right? But there's still so much more work to be done. It's not like the movement's over, right? But we need to learn from this, right? Or you're doomed to repeat it. So we don't want to go backwards, right? Learn the lessons, see the progress, and hopefully that inspires people.
Yeah, and I do want to point out where people can buy the book. It's called Vegan Voices, Essays by Inspiring Change Makers, and you can buy it through the Lantern Publishing and Media. That is the publishing company,
Okay.
LanternPM.org. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So if you just type in Vegan Voices and Lantern Publishing, you'll get there, and people can buy the book, either paperback or ebook. Eventually it will come out as an audiobook as well.
All right, so for now, the Lantern Publishing that's the source to actually purchase the book from, is that correct?
Right, if you go to Lantern Publishing and Media and click on books, and you'll see Vegan Voices as one of the new releases. And there are 4 different options where you can order and buy the book.
All right, fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm not ready yet, but now I need to. After this discussion, so I got to go over to Lantern Publishing and get a copy for myself. Great. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this and all the work that you're doing as well. Obviously, you're doing great work. That's all I can say. I'm sure you are positively influencing likely almost everyone that crosses your path. And that's
so.
yeah.
And for all the terrific work that you and Denise do. I mean, I'm just in awe of everything you're doing, and it's so geared towards education, right?
Yes.
People with the knowledge that they need, and that's exactly what we need to do. So I admire everything you do as well.
All right, thank you. So, okay. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.